What's up, everybody, and welcome to ITG Daily, the show that brings you the hottest in gaming news. I'm Drew Bosley. You can find me on Twitter at ArtisticGamer28. That's the one, the only Scott Savage. You can find him at Twitter at TaSavage. Scott, dude, so I was getting the doc ready this morning, right? And we had a fairly decent doc. We had a lot to talk about today. And then all of a sudden, Nintendo dropped some stuff. And then PlayStation. Man, I had to redo the doc 3 times this morning because there's so much stuff dropping today. We have a lot to talk about because Nintendo OLED Switch is on its way. EA is about to bring advertisements into free-to-play titles. And we have a PlayStation State of Play this Thursday. Yeah, we talked about it yesterday. And, well, we predicted right, Scott. Good job. Hooray for us.
Yeah, I think that was largely your part. You're the one who knows these kind of things, and you just told me it was going to happen.
That's I can't be all credited, but we'll take it. We'll take it. Dude, let's get into what's going on in the world of Nintendo, because that came in the world of a press release this morning, and we'll try to get through it as quickly as possible. Hang on one sec, dude. Oh, I didn't put it in here. That's too bad. Hang on one sec. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this.
Not a problem. We're joined by Northern Nerdcast actually in the Twitch chat, and he says weak intro for Scott. I don't know if I agree with that. I think you just set your own bar too high, you know?
Here, I'm gonna blast this right over top of us, I think, in a second, like this. Go like that. There we go. Okay, you ready, Scott? Let's get going. The Nintendo OLED Switch is upon us. The Nintendo Switch family of systems is about to gain a new member. On October 8th, Nintendo Switch OLED model will launch at a suggested retail price of $449.99, giving people another option for how they want to play the vast library of games on Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch OLED has a similar overall size to the Nintendo Switch, but with a larger, vibrant 7-inch OLED screen with vivid colors and crisp contrast. The Nintendo Switch OLED model also features a wide adjustable stand, tabletop mode, a new dock for a wired LAN port, and 64 gigs of internal storage, and enhanced audio for handheld and tabletop display. Just like Nintendo Switch, the Nintendo Switch OLED model allows players to play on the TV and share the attachable Joy-Con right out of the box. Scott, basically, okay, so there's 2 things. One, you were right. Oh, I'm gonna kill the audio. You were right in the fact that this, dude, I think we might have just kind of overdone ourselves here a little bit. I want to back this up, Scott.
Not a problem.
Yeah, so let's get into the Nintendo Switch, the OLED Switch, which is coming on October 8th, all right? The Nintendo Switch OLED model will launch at a suggested retail price of $449.99, giving players another option for the way they want to play the vast library of Nintendo Switch titles. The Nintendo Switch OLED model has a similar overall size to the Nintendo Switch system, but with a larger, vibrant 7-inch OLED screen with vivid colors and crisp contrast. Nintendo Switch OLED model also features a wide adjustable stand, which is a nice addition to see that come for tabletop mode, a new dock with a wired LAN port, and 64 gigs of internal storage, and enhanced audio for handheld and tabletop play. Scott, dude, this is I'm going to say you were right on this. You called it. We are getting a Super Switch.
Yes, the Super Switch Pro XL. It is actually XL, being that it has a larger screen. That's interesting. That's one of the details I had missed on my first discovery of the Nintendo announcement. But this is a silly thing, but I think this is actually my favorite upgrade of them all. The adjustable stand for tabletop mode. I've had so many times where I try to set that thing up and it just doesn't quite sit right properly, or I have to have a perfect level platform. So that's actually a small change, but has a great effect.
Oh, I think this is it's so I said. So we were talking about whether or not this was going to come as a Switch Pro. And you said, what? It'd be a Super Switch. And dude, I'm going right there with you. It is a Super Switch. This, to me, lacks the punch that when we got from PS4 to PS4 Pro or Xbox One to the Xbox Xbox One X. I'm not seeing a huge leap here, Scott. I'm seeing a new screen, more storage, better audio. That is it. So if I still jump into the world of Hyrule Warriors, all those NPCs are still going to chug on this thing, man.
Yeah, that's a problem. It's nice that they added some internal storage, but there's no mention of increased RAM or
Nope.
an update to the video card or something that would kind of alleviate that frames issue, because that frames issue is quite bad in certain titles.
In certain titles, absolutely. In Hyrule Warriors being kind of that that Dynasty game where there's so many characters on screen at once, you feel that the old Nintendo Switch is really lacking in the horsepower to push that forward. So I was hoping when we did get what I was going to call the Switch Pro, right? Because it was going to have an enhanced screen. It was going to have more storage. It was going to have a better internal output that will allow us to pick up on all these characters and have them run at 60 frames per second at 4K. Dude, I don't see that happening here whatsoever. Not even a little bit.
No, and it's interesting that it is dropping at the same time as Metroid Dread.
Yeah.
But I don't believe that title is going to terribly exceed what a normal Switch could run. So are they going to have to come out with a new kind of upgrade for Breath of the Wild 2? We know that's a large title coming down the hatch, and I could expect that to have higher graphics, more things on screen.
Exactly.
I fear that it's going to run into the same issue that Hyrule Warriors had.
No, absolutely. I think this is where we're going to run into that same problem again. So I wanted to see Nintendo push the hardware, not just give us a nicer screen. Like, man.
And on the topic of the screen as well, it's something funny that I mentioned before we started here that I've seen online is people comparing this OLED screen to the one that the Vita had about 9 years ago.
Well, that's just it, dude. Like, an OLED screen is great, but I've seen OLED screens run in 1080. Like, where's the 4K version? I thought we were stepping up in the world of Nintendo, and this is like this is a half step, dude. Like
it's a side step, if any.
Exactly, right? Like, they tripped on the step moving up. It was just, to me, this is a little disappointing. I'm gonna be completely honest. If you haven't picked up on that tone of my voice already, it's just, I wanted to see it push the hardware. Nintendo is known for pushing the boundaries and stepping things up, and for me, this particular model is not pushing it. It is giving us a nicer screen. It's got nice features, Scott. There's no doubt about it, right? I like the fact that it's a 7-inch screen. I like that it's an OLED screen to boot. So we are going to get more vibrancy out of the screen. The colors and all the things are going to be so much more crisp compared to what we see right now with the current Switch. But it's not enough for me to run out and spend $450.
Yeah, I'm curious actually. Is that American dollars or
No,
is that a
that's
Canadian price?
That is our price, yeah.
I was a little bit worried there.
Yeah, well, mate,
I think if you have to convert that to Canadian, that gets quite high up there, and at that point, you're wrestling with those who would buy a PlayStation 5.
Oh man, I'm just Scott, this isn't what I wanted from Nintendo. I think the adjustable stand at the back is a fantastic addition. Like you say, how many times do you set that thing over and it just falls because it's like a toothpick holding up your Switch? So it's not even like an actual base. Now we have it goes the full length of the full width of the Switch, which is a nice way, and it's completely adjustable too, so you can have it at different pitches. Fantastic addition. But to me, this is like small iterations on what we already love within the product. But it's not enough for me, like I say, to run out and spend that kind of cash because we're not jumping up to 4K, which is a little disappointing to see. I was looking around. I got a press release on this morning. Instantly dove in looking for hardware specs, right? I want to see how this compares to what we already play on. And I don't see it pushing. That's what I see from like the PS4 to the PS4 Pro. I don't see that leap, Scott, here whatsoever.
No, it doesn't. It definitely just doesn't have enough of an increase in horsepower, I think, is what it boils down to. There's one positive out of that, which is a contrast to the 3DS, where the 3DS came out and then they had the 3DS XL, or rather the new 3DS.
Sure.
And that was required for certain games. You couldn't actually play new games unless you had that iteration of the 3DS. it seems like they have not gone with that kind of split market in this case. So luckily, I mentioned Breath of the Wild 2. Splatoon 3 was actually teased in this as well. People are going nuts about that online. But luckily, if you have the old Switch, at least as far as I know at this point, you'll be able to play as well.
I think that's it, really, right? There's kind of like, why go to the next upgrade? It's not any faster. It doesn't appear to be. Again, we're waiting on full specs. I want to see a full comparison. Like Digital Foundry will break it completely right down from the nuts and bolts, right? Maybe that's where we're starting to see the difference, is when they get their hands on it and we can see why we want to upgrade. But from the press release that I just received this morning, dude, it's kind of leaving me a little underwhelmed. The fact that I'm still worried that Hyrule Warriors is going to chug on the new Switch.
Yeah, well, it'll be hard to enjoy the increase, or the upgrade rather, if it's just still running into the same issues.
Absolutely.
It's going to be easy to compare in our case. Playing Hyrule Warriors on the new one, well, it'll be immediately apparent whether it's a sizable upgrade or not.
Yeah. Scott, we're also going to jump in, quickly touch on the fact that yesterday we talked about it. PlayStation is having a state of play coming up this Thursday. We'll be back for that. That's coming in at 5 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. So we've seen Cole's head spinning powers in action before, but this Thursday we'll get a 9-minute look at Deathloop's time-twisted world as part of the new state of play. The show kicks off at 5 p.m. Eastern, viewable on Twitch and YouTube for PlayStation. In this extended gameplay sequence, we'll see Cole use his abilities to stealthily skulk around rooftops or go guns blazing to create a whole lot of mayhem. In addition to this look at Bethesda's violent adventure, we'll have updates on some exciting indie and third-party titles. The full show clocks in around 30 minutes. Dude, this is definitely one of their longer state of plays, so that's pretty exciting. Here's something to take note of, though, Scott. Though it will not include any updates on God of War, Horizon Forbidden West, or the next generation of PlayStation VR.
Oh, there's some large topics missing. The PlayStation VR is something I'm very curious to see how that works out, and the kind of software that is intended for it. And it's just kind of unfortunate that that's not in there. Horizon, however, was the subject of the last state of play. Largely had almost all the airtime for it, so that
pretty much
it makes sense we wouldn't have to see anything new about that. And
I'm definitely curious to see what we're going to see for Deathloop. Like, I'm looking forward to that game. I think the game looks awesome, right? That's a pretty exciting title to keep an eye out for. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking for my next stealth game, I guess. I just found one recently. We'll be talking about it. We're going to be talking about Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts 2. Nate and I will be covering it this week on the show. So once this wraps up, like, what am I playing next for the world of stealth? And I think Deathloop is my next adventure. No surprises, though. Nothing on, like you say, Horizon Forbidden West, because they had their own state of play for that. Covered a lot of details. And we're now more or less waiting on a release date announcement. Whether or not that's this year or next year, we're kind of on the seat waiting for that. No God of War, no surprise whatsoever. I don't think we'll see anything of God of War until next year at the earliest. And then PlayStation VR, it kind of lingers there and leaves me questioning, where is that right now? Like, when are we gonna see the PlayStation VR 2 and what comes out with that? Because we saw snippets of the new design of the controllers, and like, man, those things look cool, and I want to get my hands on those. And how did that feel? And now we're talking about haptic feedback being implemented into it as well. Like, there's a lot of questions now when it comes to the PlayStation's VR system and where that lies, and what the future looks like for that, and what games are coming down the pipeline. But this Thursday, though, will be the state of play covering indie titles, which is cool to see what's going to be coming. And there's a lot of options available on Black Reef Island. So we'll be taking a look at that for sure. And we'll see what Cole's powers are all about. And hopefully we can find some new stealth gameplay to kind of keep us hungry and starving for until the game launches later this year. Scott, are you ready?
I'm really hoping to see a lot of Deathloop. I hope they go really in depth with what they show in the same way that they did with Horizon Forbidden West.
Right.
I hope this one kind of takes the spotlight, because ever since we saw that trailer, that release or announcement rather, it's it's been subject of debate, a lot of question.
Yep.
What kind of game is this even going to be? It's still hard to understand that part. So I'm hoping it's alleviated here or illuminated. And for the PlayStation VR 2, I hope that's a subject of its own entire state of play.
I think it will be. I think it'll have its own showcase. Northern Nerdcast says he's hoping that there's no cord. Dude, there's one cord. Jim Ryan's already stated that there's going to be one cord for the PlayStation VR unit, not a whole mess of what we've been dealing with. So I'm okay with one cord, but after having my Quest 2, man, it is just, it's that freedom makes a world of difference. So I'm going to be completely honest, man. So having one cord is going to kind of crap, but okay, I can deal with one cord instead of having a whole spaghetti of things connected to my PlayStation. The thing goes to another box and then goes off to the headset. Oh man, it was...
It's hard to tie yourself up with just one cord.
Yeah, well, it's possible. I'm sure I'll trip over it. But let's see. I think EA is tripping as well here, Scott, because EA and Hi-Res Studios partnered with in-game ad company. Oh man.
Yeah, we've heard a little bit about this in when it was in beta testing sort of time frame, and I believe the company involved just bailed out of that project, was not a fan at all. So I guess I believe this is their second attempt to kind of put that idea out there.
Well, so here's what's going on. EA and Hi-Res partner with in-game advertising platform. An update we've had recently is EA says in-game advertising for console games is not something we're currently looking at. But yet they partnered with this company? Come on, really? Electronic Arts and Tencent-backed Hi-Res Studios are among the first to partner with a new in-game advertising platform. The platform is titled Player One, WON, and is owned by U.S. TV advertising company Simul Media. It is designed to showcase video advertisements inside PC and console games. Speaking to Axios, Simul Media EVP of gaming David Madden commented on the acceleration of free-to-play titles across console and PC and claims that over 90% of players never spend money on them. Scott, you know how to solve that? Don't make it free-to-play. I'm just...
Or, you know, the only thing I can see out of this being positive, just because we've been inundated with ads everywhere we go constantly. So yeah. I'm not super excited to see that spill into video games, but it's just perhaps EA could do this at the trade-off of loot boxes.
Well, that's the thing, right? They switched over to this whole loot box. So they're like, people aren't spending 90% of players aren't spending money on free-to-play titles. Dude, I don't buy that for a second. Not for a second. Have you played Fortnite? You know how people spend money in that game? A ton of people. Everybody buys the Battle Pass. Not everybody, but a ton of people buy that Battle Pass, man.
Every few days, Epic is able to buy yet another yacht with the amount of microtransactions. And I think they're one of the few that popularized microtransactions kind of being the main influx of income. So yeah, it's a little hard to believe those numbers there.
I don't buy those numbers whatsoever. Simul Media has already run a pilot advertising campaign inside Hi-Res free-to-play title Smite. Similar to mobile adverts, the player is given an option to watch a 15 to 30 second video in exchange for an in-game rewards. Dude, do not bring this into my games whatsoever.
Oh no, they're using it to reward us with loot boxes.
Oh my god, The trial reported that 22% of players were much more likely to play a game within game ads if they were received perks for doing so, with 11% of the total more likely to spend money inside the game. Dude, I don't like this. EA is now partnered with them. Whether or not they say this is not coming to consoles, dude, if they wasn't coming to consoles, then why would they partner? Now, let's take another note too, though, Scott. They have also started buying a lot of mobile companies as well, right? Let's not forget, we've been covering over the past week and a half, 2 weeks. EA's coming in and sweeping up a bunch of mobile developers right now as well.
Well, that would be a much more usual and expected kind of avenue to project ads onto. But yeah, I cannot get behind this being in console games. I'm totally okay if it's creative and added on the part of the developer. You know, for example, if my health potion happens to be a Mountain Dew, I would like that. But I don't like the just kind of stapled on top sort of ads? Or when you boot up the game, is it going to show me a 9-second unskippable ad? Like
Sure.
the kind of thing YouTube does, I'm not a fan of that.
No, not at all. So we'll see what happens there in the future. But we also have more news on EA. Don't expect to see Mass Effect 5 or Dragon Age 4 at EA Play Live this month. We're expecting to see more updates on Battlefield 2042 and Madden 22, but two games we won't see at Electronic Arts event are Dragon Age 4 and Mass Effect 5. After the successful release of Mass Effect Legendary Edition, it's clear that the hype for a new Mass Effect game is a fever pitch. BioWare confirmed a fifth entry in the series was in the works at the Game Awards 2020. But Scott, do not expect to see those two titles. What are we going to watch then?
Yeah, it's unclear as to what is going to consist of then. But I am a little bit comforted that they call it Mass Effect 5 and not Andromeda 2.
That's That's fair. We'll see what happens there. But that was a little, man, like seriously, I was kind of hoping to see something out of those titles for sure. Like even just a little bit at this point, right? Because it's been that long. But I think what we're starting to see, Scott, and we'll kind of come near the end, is the effects of COVID still lingering around, right? I think that's the biggest dilemma right now. Now, I think maybe that's why they pushed it too. Right out of E3, EA Play would normally kind of be one of the parts that kick off or end off with E3, right? And this year, they weren't even there. They went a whole month out instead. So I think COVID has something to do with that. Maybe they'll be back next year for E3. Only time will tell. Scott, I want to jump into NetherRealm starts work on a new game and ends DLC support for Mortal Kombat 11. NetherRealm took to Twitter to announce that it has started work on its next project. As a result, there will no further DLC come into the world of Mortal Kombat 11. So get all your Kombat DLC for MK11. Dude, I love Mortal Kombat. It's definitely one of my go-to games. But I think what's coming next is Injustice 3. I think that's what they're working on right now.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, do you have any sort of idea what their next project would be?
Yep.
It's kind of suggested, since the DLC is ending for Mortal Kombat, it's kind of suggesting that a new Mortal Kombat would be coming down the line. We know that will happen eventually, but
sure.
Yeah, there is also Injustice that they're known for as well. So
yeah,
I believe there's only 2 of those titles.
There is.
Yeah.
So they've gone back and forth, right? They ended off in Mortal Kombat, brought out Injustice, brought out Mortal Kombat X, and then they went to Injustice 2, now Mortal Kombat 11. So you can only kind of assume at this point and predict that, yeah, well, I think we're in for another Injustice. What I would really like them to see is get their hands on the Marvel lineup. But that's, I don't think that's happening because it's Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers is DC. So hopes and dreams are just there. Scott, what games and announcements are gonna be coming out for today, buddy?
All right. Well, we have a follow-up to something that we're familiar, actually.
Yeah.
I believe it was a year ago. That is My Friend Pedro, and that is getting a sequel of sorts called Ripe for Revenge. Now, this is, interestingly, going to be coming to Android and iOS
yep.
devices, and that has a release date of August 5th. So it'll be interesting. I think that kind of game will lend itself well in mobile. I think it's actually a good venue to work out, and it's cool to see a sequel because I enjoyed that game. But
that's very cool.
We also have The Witcher Monster Slayer, and that is launching on July 21st. We now have a release date for that. We have a few releases actually today, finally. There's been several days without any sort of releases at all, but there is The Silver Case coming to Switch. A Plague Tale: Innocence now has its upgrade to the Series X and the PlayStation 5 consoles. It's also making its way to the Switch. And I think I'm going to correct, I hope I say this correctly. Ys 9 Monstrum Nox coming to the Switch and the PC.
I think you got it, buddy. We'll go with that anyways. It sounds good to me. I think Northern Nerdcast is on that one. I think that's his game right there. But for us, dude, A Plague's Tale: Innocence coming to PS5 and Xbox Series X. Everybody should go and jump on that game. That game is awesome. And now we got to sit back and wait. Nate jumps in over at twitch.tv/theofficial ITG and says MK versus DC2. Dude, man, can you imagine? That would be fantastic. But I guess only time will tell. But everybody, our time is up. This has been ITG Daily. Thank you for hanging out with us. And of course, don't forget, you can always be here with us live over at twitch.tv/theofficialitg, as well as YouTube. But if you can't hit us up live, it's no big deal. Hit us up later at InsideTheGame.ca, podcast services, and TV streaming networks around the globe. I'm Drew, that's Scott, and this has been ITG Daily. See you tomorrow, everybody.